Okay, make sure you watch also the videos that I actually record, right? Because maybe, right, okay, different videos they actually create, they have different kind of, not different kind of methods there, but the way that actually solve the problems, right, is a little bit different there. So you will find different kind of way basically I'm going to develop my kind of process of illustrating or drawing or painting the shadows there, right? Okay, so that's why it's really important for you to watch all the previous video, that most of my previous video that related there, right? Okay, so that's why don't just relying on only one or few videos that I have here, but try to watch, okay, few of those videos, because different subject matters will have different kind of treatment there, right? Okay, different kind of treatment there. Even though the techniques are going to be slightly the same, but trust me one thing, okay, the way that we're going to work basically are going to be the same, but the way that actually I'm going to conduct it there, okay, or coordinate my kind of strokes, they will be different there normally. Right? They look the same, but when you actually start to draw, you will feel the difference, okay? Especially when you change subject matters, right? Like from drawing human or drawing simple shapes to drawing human, then full body humans, animals, dogs have fur, cats also have a few fur there, okay? They're going to have a different kind of treatment there, right? Okay, now let me start there. Right? Okay, record there, right? So when you talk about our light and shades, first of all, you have to get to know first your surrounding, our surrounding directly. But if you take a look at, okay, I want to check some of the faces there, right? Okay. All right, like her face here right now, okay. Okay, what are the challenges that we face here? It's hard to find the shadows, right? If you take a look at a glimpse there, right? But basically there is a what we call that uh, a directions of light that actually form from these faces there, okay? So how actually we're going to analyze them? If you take a look at your friends kind of faces, they all have the same kind of value of tone that can define the shadows there, right? That can be define the shadows there, right? So I'm going to select them. But these pictures I'm going to delete there first because I'm not going to use the whole thing there, right? Right here. The reason why I use or I choose basically the photos from our webcam, not because you can use the same there, okay, but I just want to give you guys some examples there. If you have a limited kind of reference, but of course nowadays there's no such thing that you can say you have a limited kind of reference there, especially when it comes to develop basically your understanding there, okay, to develop your skill to practice your drawing. I'm reducing the, what we call that, opacities, right? I'm adding new layers, all right? So if we want to use not black but maybe a little bit kind of dark, right, kind of tone for the canvas there, right? Okay, not white colors, then we can actually apply basically some of the shadows from here. How actually I did this some shadows, huh? Okay. Before I'm going to start this one, still the power. To define the shadows and shades, take a look at the directions of the light. You have to define this. Don't just simply draw without defining the directions of the light and shadows. Can you define basically right now? I'm going to ask you guys a question. Can you define where is it the shadows and light sources for these pictures? Where is it? Where is it there? Anyone?
Above or in front?
Above or in front? Here, is it? And in front.
Yes.
But where basically the shadows fall off?
Something
Right
around
or
the
side
neck.
Left or right side
Exactly.
there? If you take a look closely, left or right side there, right? This side is the shadows there, right? See?
Yes.
This is the shadows fall off there, right? Okay? Areas there. Light basically came from two directions there. Alright? See? This is the highlight there. Okay? Maybe this is the highlight that came from the screen. Maybe. Right. Or maybe from the source of light also, okay? There is a highlight over here. Okay? Here's a highlight there. Right? So that's why you need to define them. This also has a show the light sources there, right? Okay? That appear from the structures there. Every faces structures, they have a different kind of structure that define the highlight and shadows there. So that's why we have to treat a little bit different for each drawings, but the methods of working are going to be the same. Okay, this is all about the light, source of light and shadows there. Can you see the light that actually what we call that appears from the hair? This area is there, right? So that means the hair doesn't look entirely black there, right? So you have to define them. When you actually watch any photos, any reference, or any still life or object that you have in front of you, when you watch at something there, they try to define basically the light there. Okay? When you look at things surround you here there, okay? Try to define them. Where basically the source of light there, okay? That's how we train ourselves. Right? We have to train ourselves there. Do this kind of exercise as a part of your way to study things before you going to draw them right. Don't just leave it into the screen there, okay? You only learn things when you actually on screen. We will learn by nature, okay? Using our surrounding to learn there, okay? That's the best way, basically. Because you don't need computers there to learn about shadows and light. You don't need photos graphics there. You don't need cameras there to work. Use your eyes, your natural kind of cameras there, right? To observe things, to see where there's light and shadows there, or maybe you can actually create them there, okay? Recreate them there, okay? Put some spotlight there, okay? And then point it into those objects. You can see the shadows fall off with any directions that you want. Okay? Normally we're using in our studios, like because our studios, Mr. Kelly have a very built-in spotlight, okay? We can use to develop this kind of experience there. But right now we don't have, so we use whatever that we have surrounding. Right? Same goes to what I show you guys right now. If you take a look at your friend's pictures, right, other than one junior, right? Okay? Let's take a look at Moonhei. Alright, Moonhei there, right? Okay? You can see the source of light came from these directions there. Right? Right directions, right? And they actually have a reflections, shadows, and light, what we call that, highlights over here. Right, and the source of light from the monitor screens, okay, being what we call that glass, okay, for to the nose there, right, okay. So there's a two different kind of source of light here that we have. So the shadows, okay, they fall off over here. So study carefully when you look at things. Okay, there is a backlight over here. See the backlight. All right. So actually follow through the structures or the form the body there, okay? So all this kind of understanding, basically we can learn, right, to gain our knowledge by observing things naturally there. Not only you watch cartoon, anime, and any kind of what we call that reference that you have and watch cartoon there, right, okay? Then you want to learn about design there, right, okay? You can learn from natural kind of, from your life there, okay? It's around you here right now. Okay, now, we want to study the shapes itself and shadows. Before we get to study this entire kind of faces, all right, what we're going to do right now, let's just say we're going to paint it up using the basic shapes. So let's just say that, all right, I'm going to use I want to make it a bit kind of challenge for me there. A bit challenge for me. I have one and two shapes. Right. Two shapes there, okay? That to define, basically, I don't know what it is there. Okay, let us say this is the shape there. I'm using shift there to work on that. Like that. Shift, click shift. Right, click alternate. But it doesn't look right. I want to make it a bit more, let me say like this one there. Maybe. Right? We're using a little bit kind of imagination here. So from these shapes over here, it look like a ring, right? It's look a bit more like vase there, right? Okay, maybe, right? So what we can do from here, before we're going to paint it up, I want you guys to use base colors at first. But when you actually design your exercise, you're going to refer to this one to paint them back. I'm using my imagination sheet because I want to show you guys the impact of understanding when you actually develop basically from a very simple shape like this. Okay, if you take a look from these shapes, it's a very flat kind of shape that define anything, right? But the thing is right now, our job is we want to make these shapes have a dimension there. Have a dimension there, right? Have a dimension. So that means how actually I'm going to show some dimensions, some depths, some form, some structures from the shapes here by using light and shadows here. So now, what we can do from here? First of all, sorry, if I actually deselect this areas like this, right? Make sure you add new layers, add new layers there. I want to do some selections there first. What I can do, I'm going to click Control and I move the cursor to the layers. Click to the layers, then I can do the selections there. See, if I want to paint on top of it and I afraid that I make mistakes, add new layers. Add new layers, save the files there. So you're using a blank piece of layers there to do some shadows work or shades that work there, okay? To define, to develop the forms. All right. But now, what you can do right now, I'm going to use soft round brushes, very big brushes there, but I'm going to make a bit more huge there, okay? By adjusting the size. And the next thing is the directions of shadow there, guys. I already done some of the exercise previously demonstration using circles there, becoming like egg shape there, okay, or form there. So what I'm going to do right now, adjust a little bit on the value of tones. You can use swatches if you want to, but I don't want to use them. Why? because I want to give you guys some experience that when you actually don't restrict yourself to one rules, you will find a lot of challenges. But the result sometimes will be more exciting than the first one there, okay? And the one that you actually follow there. So now, how to tackle the shadows there before you're going to tackle the light? So for example, the light came from, okay, I'm using this reference there, okay, this picture as a reference now. So let me check that again. I'm going to duplicate these layers there, right? Then what I can do first, I'm going to deselect the selections. This picture I'm going to scale down a bit as my reference there. Okay. So even though we are not going to have a hair, but we are going to use some directions there. The directions of light source from here, from top there, okay? A little bit kind of top right there, okay? So what I'm going to do, I'm going to do some selections. Select the blank areas there first. Alright, I'm going to define the shadows there first. You can work both there, okay? You can define shadows areas there, for example, like this. Right? Maybe a little bit more darker there. Right? See? When I paint, I'm not paint like this. Don't paint like this, huh? This is not the right way. I'm using the form, right, of the shapes to define basically the shadows. See? Uh, you see that? It's not magic, but it's the senses of understanding that we try to develop from here. See? Define the shadows, right? Not magic there, okay? It's a logic there. Why? Because the shape itself looks a little bit more like this form that I find already. Don't be afraid to make mistakes, but by the same time, when you paint, when you move your hands, right, to draw the shapes of shadows, don't paint the whole thing because you have to understand, okay? In every light, in every shadow, there is a light there. Right? In every light, also there is a shadow. Okay, so that means the areas, okay, from the left side, because the light came over here, I will define a bit kind of reflections, shadows that form the light over here. Okay, all right. So this area basically a little bit kind of, I can use eyedropper a bit to define a bit some of the areas here. Not too much of the shadows that is, because it looks a bit weird there just now, right? It's difficult to use imaginations there, okay? But if you use reference, they won't be able to have a lot of problems. That's why I'm using your reference, but I'm using my imagination just to give you guys a bit kind of understanding there. How basically those lessons teach me how to develop my understanding there. In this area is a bit kind of darker, but not too much. But I'm changing the size all the time. Okay? Right. First. Now, at the moment we just leave it there first. We're going to focus on the highlights. So when the directions of light came over here, so that means this area should be a little bit more lighter. Right. See? A little bit more lighter there. Now you can see the difference there. Right? When I paint the highlight also there, right? I'm not painting like that, but I'm trying to make a circle around it because I want to make these shapes, the form of the shapes, look more dimensionally, illusion of this dimensional will appear from the shadows. If I want to close the selection first, then you can see the whole structure. Look like gussing a little bit there, right again, like a blade there again, like a traditional kind of blade, what we call that, toys there, right? Or a bit more like vast there basically, or minimized structures there, right? Okay, from here. Okay. So this is basically the shadows there, right? That I actually try to construct from the basic form or base colors there. Base colors there, right? Okay. So this is the power of illusions there. Okay. The values of illusion there. Now I'm going to create some shadows there first. It's not that hard, right? To define basically the areas of shadows and shades there. You just need to understand where the directions and the formation of that shadows will going to be appear based on the shapes there, right? Okay, that's all. So now we don't want to make these subjects look a bit more floating there, right? What I can do, I'm using 3%, right? Then I'm going to define the shadows there. Shadows, cast shadows, basically going to be formed off right here, right? Yeah. When we use very minimized on the flows, we can actually control a bit on our pressures there. Okay. And of course, shadows can be formed off over here directly. That means when I paint, I'm going to move my hands like this one. Okay? Okay, when you talk about the areas of the exclusion shadows there, okay? So I'm going to paint a little bit more darkness right here at the bottom floor. Just a little bit to blend it up a bit more. See? Yeah. Still going to be blend a little bit. All right. Any questions so far? Kacang already, right? Simple, is it? How to define the shadows there using the basic form and shapes? Right. All right, the key point is right now, before I'm going to draw one gen face there, okay? It's all about to define the direction surface. Using circles, using triangles, you have the reference with you, always find reference there. And when you draw something, always think. Use your brain to think first, right? Before you move your hand, before you want to work with the strokes there, right, okay? Otherwise, all the efforts of learning are going to be put it on the trash there, okay, down the drain there. Because why? You don't actually think, right, where and how to move, okay, when you saw something with your eye. Think because when you think, you're going to analyze also the methods that you might going to use. Okay, what are the methods there? Is these methods are going to be right or not? Layers will make our work more organized there, but don't use too much layers there. Maybe some methods of working, we require a few layers, right? Okay, sometimes more than 1 or 2 layers, maybe 10 layers, 20 layers there, okay, something. But my kind of understanding of learning process or working process, I try to minimize the layers because I don't want to get confused later on when I want to do some changes there. Remember that, okay? Don't be afraid to make mistakes. Right? Apa very sexy over there, right? Alright. So when we actually try to minimize a bit our areas there, and we develop also our confidence along the way. Don't be afraid to make mistakes. Right? People always make mistakes when they don't actually challenge themselves, all right, to develop their understanding. They be afraid to move. Why? Because they don't know the logic there, right? Okay, the logic itself, okay. So from now on, if you saw some of the vase, some of the object that you can find from your parents' house there, okay, take a look back again. Don't look into those patterns, those design details there, okay. Look into the whole overall shapes there first. right? All the detail, for example, like sometimes people love to watch about all this kind of pattern, for example, like they saw this kind of pattern, for example, right? So like a batik pattern or Chinese kind of paintings, right? Okay, kind of patterns there, right? For example, right? Yeah, just want to draw, just want to show you guys how it works here. For example, like this, right? Or I have to reverse that first, sorry. So I have to reverse that. Okay, let's just say like this one a bit, right? They always have a bit kind of worried there, okay, when they saw this kind of patterns there. Don't look at this kind of details there. Just watch, okay, the thing that really important to you, right? Patterns like this, there are right. A lot of people make mistakes there. Patterns like this. They worry too much there. Don't worry too much about the patterns there, right? Why? Because your job is to see the overall shape, the whole shapes that form basically the structure there, that's all. Try to have the filters between your brain and eyes there. When you see things, see into the form of design there, okay? That's how actually you can actually develop your good observations to understand the subject matters that you want to draw later on, okay? All right, any questions there so far? Any questions? No? So let
No.
me, no? Yes? Have questions or not? Right? No. Right. How
No
actually
problem.
we're going to define also a little bit kind of detail. Sometimes people say that, okay, can I actually add a little bit more details? Yes, you can. Either you're going to use the same layers, and of course you can use different layers. The layers, it's just a bit on the what we call that the tone. Then you can actually add a bit more details there. Like this. For example, okay. So you add a bit more values on from this presentation there. Then go to the shadows there, right? Try to find a bit more. The exclusion of those shadows over here with the cast shadow the whole thing there, okay? The highlight also the same thing. Maybe sometimes you can use a little bit kind of adjust the flow a bit and add a little bit kind of highlights, more highlights over here. Alright? To be more shining there. On this surface there. Can be. Right? More shining there. Okay? But some of the areas try to get a minimized kind of tone there. Maybe too much over here. Yeah. Okay? It may be there. So that's how basically you can define it. That's how basically you can try to make it define it. Okay? This subject matter is a little bit different than from the one that we show for some of the good things, but it still can be used there. Maybe when I look at this one there, right? To find this area can be add a bit color, add a bit of this. Okay, a bit here, right? Right. Okay, see that. Find a bit more. Right. Okay, so that's how actually you can define a bit more. Okay, you can see the difference there, right? From the beginning and the end there. So, of course, okay, these subject matters were basically from my imagination, but it's look logics based on the shapes and form that I actually try to introduce them. Right. Yusuf, okay? Say hi. Say hi. Say hi now, Narek. Say hi now, Narek. Hi. Yusuf, say hi. My name is Yusuf, Narek. Thank you, Baba. All right. You guys? So that's how basically we can actually develop a very small step to understand how to define basically light and shadows there, right? Because when it comes to draw different kind of subject matters, they're going to have a different kind of challenge. So to work with that, let's we begin to work with these spaces. Okay, what we can do from here? The same methods and techniques. What the difference is, right? I'm going to use, right? When I use the brushes there, okay, when I paint, sorry, I'm going to paint from the textures, from the shadows areas that is, okay? Take a look, okay? When I actually paint, right? I didn't paint like this, right? The shadows there. And I didn't paint like this one, okay? I use the structures, the form basically, right? It develops, right? The shadows areas there. And of course, these techniques basically are going to be as detailed as we paint the illustration or the character design there, okay? But when I paint, right, the what we call that the below of the chin there, right, okay, kind of what we call that shadows, I'm going to use this kind of form there, okay, to work. All right. These areas also have the shadows there, right? What I can do, I can paint these areas there. If I close the pictures, I can see the whole structures of shadows here. But what makes the shadows, the design will look a bit more recognizable. It's not because of the shadows itself. We will go back into our first exercise that we actually did, the outline exactly. When I actually paint also, okay, when I actually move my hands to work with this kind of techniques, I navigate basically my techniques to, okay, I try to adjust the sizes at the same time. Okay? Small areas using small brushes there. Okay? Yusuf, not scared. Sometimes boys, they were too excited there. Okay? Normally I ask them, right, to sleep there, okay, in the evening there. So if you take a look closely here, all right, we define the shadow closely there, okay, one step at a time there. Right, slowly we define the shadows. Of course, okay, a lot of people when they actually try to develop this kind of shadow techniques, okay, they're always afraid. Why? Because they thought they're drawing a ghost there. Don't worry, guys, okay? Right. Use the flows to paint also the hairline, okay? When I paint the hairline, okay? See, I'm using the flows of the hair to draw the hairline, just like I'm comb the hair there, right? I'm using my brushes to paint or comb the hair there. Eyes, with some eyebrow here, right? That. So the techniques of moving your hands also really important there. Actually. Okay, now, this is basically the shadows there, right? We define the shadows there. The next thing that we need to do is to draw back again the structures here. So I'm going to use around 60% of this. Right. And I'm going to use my brushes there. I'm going to wet flow brush, 100%, and the size is around 10% already, point size is there. So when we use a very small kind of what we call a little kind of resources there, okay, that we have. I think they use there, right? What you can do here, your kind of understanding to define the areas of the shapes, right, of some of the areas of the faces. They will challenge your kind of understanding there. So what I can do right now, I'm not trying to draw her portrait, right? Don't worry there, because one of the reasons I didn't actually want to draw her portrait directly, I just used her face as a part of my reference. Why? Because she don't pay me there, okay, to do that. Right? No, right? But yes, if she pay me, right, I won't be able to draw like this, right? Because why? Because the resources of the pictures is not that clear, right? So that means, just like I told, right, take a look at how actually I move my hands when I draw these areas there. A lot of people make mistakes. They draw nose, they're going to draw like this. This is how people draw the nose there before. Huh? Or something they draw like this one there. Right? What is this? This is not cartoon there, guys, okay? If I want to draw, study human structures there, okay? Nose. Where do I start, okay? I'm going to start right here. Draw the nose hook or nose trail and try to define the suggestions line there, right? And then not try to color the whole thing there, okay? So this is how we draw the nose there, right? But different kind of structures, different kind of what we call that shapes. I draw the eyes, half of it there. I think I'm not using pure black, right? The pupil and the iris together there, right? Remember, guys, this is illustration classes there. This is not purely 100% portrait kind of classes there, right? So that means zoom in, how I draw the lips and mouth. I'm going to start with a line, the mouth line at this, right? And then I'm going to draw the lips, but the line that I draw from this structure there, the strokes, were not going to be combined. See? I'm not going to be combined together there, see? So take a look closely there, right? When you draw the lips, like the human lips, from now on, you try to combine them there, right? Now I'm going to draw the neck there, okay? So what we are going to do, if we don't use purely black colors over here, what I can do next, I'm going to go to image first, adjust the levels. I'm going to make it the levels, right? Become a bit more darker like that. Okay? Then now I can get the right kind of black colors there, okay, for the strokes. So now, how actually I define the hair? I'm going to draw the hair from here. Okay? Very smooth kind of line there. Basically, these areas also have some etching there, okay, that can be developed from here. So develop your kind of understanding to draw the shapes of the hair. And of course, from these pictures, you won't be able to see the details there, right? That's what I say. This is not the right reference. This is not the models is the right models there, but the reference that I have is very limited there, okay? So that's why you have to work smart on it. See the way I move my hands there to draw the hair. A very soft kind of line there, soft kind of touch there, okay? Right? a very soft kind of touch there. So the strokes that you actually define from this exercise will make the whole presentation look more complete, right? More complete. Then don't forget to draw the whole, not the whole body there, okay, but the suggestions on the body there. This one also make mistakes a bit when I draw the strokes there, right? So basically we have finished, okay, to draw a very suggestions kind of strokes and line, okay, for the photos there. When we close them up, we got these pictures. What else we can do from here? It's just the shadows, and you create the whole compositions in the right way. Of course, this is not a finished kind of drawings there. There's a lot of things that we can do from here. As I actually have shown you guys from my previous video there, right? Okay. Go back into your soft brushes. You can use also different kind of brushes that works, but I'm using soft brushes because it's quite easy for beginners to work with it. So I'm going to minimize my percentage of flow there, but I'm not adjust the opacities there, right? Okay. So what I can do from here? Now I can begin to paint there, okay, the shadows there. So take a look at the reference there. When I paint the shadows right here, right, define basically the shadows area right here. The nose area there, okay. A lot of people always, okay, they want to paint the nostril, they color it into dark, okay. If you take a look closely in the illustrations, there's no such thing as painted the nostril into dark, okay. You just leave it there. Maybe you can paint later on what we call that a little bit more details later on, right, okay. And then try to define slowly, right, the areas of shadows, okay, from the photos here, right, okay. You want to have a very different kind of tone. You can adjust basically the flows, the size, right, later on, right, okay. Don't be afraid to add a little bit kind of shadows there, but don't press too much there, okay. Check the flows back again, and then try to define that slowly there, okay, one step at a time there. And of course, if you not actually try to attempt to think, right, psychologically there, okay, I want to draw her portrait there, okay, no, I'm not actually trying to draw her portrait there. I just want to study the light and shadows based on the photos there. So you will have more focus, not to add a lot of pressures, okay, when you want to define this kind of illustration there, or to define the studies there, okay, on the reference here. You will focus more on the directions on the light. You're going to focus on the directions on the shadows itself there. Some of the areas right here you can use erasers, all right, adjust a bit on the flows back again, all right, and then you can actually reduce a little bit kind of shadows using erasers there, right? Use brush back again to paint, right, the shadows areas right here. Slowly paint it right here, and add those value of tone together there. Right? So the next thing is the closer bit, right? Okay. Shadows area right here, a bit here there, right? So don't be afraid, guys, okay, to experiment these methods there, okay? Because when you actually develop a lot of this exercise to develop those understanding, you will gain a lot more kind of knowledge there, okay? To develop your kind of portrait drawing later on. Okay? Yeah. Take a look how I actually move my hands. Look easy there, right? But I believe that it's not that easy as it looks if you not actually practice a lot. See the way I move my hands when I paint? I use a form of those skull structures there, okay, to move my hands there towards. Don't use one single direction there. Don't paint like that one there, okay. That's what laziness there, okay. And add a bit kind of details. Okay. Right, just to define some of the details for other areas there, okay, to make the nose, right, okay, bone structures of the nose a bit more obviously been formed there, right. So the next thing is the highlight, okay, the highlight there, okay. If you're afraid to make mistakes, just add your layers and try to find the highlight of it. Where is it, the highlight there? Adjust the size a bit. So the highlights are going to be right here a bit. They're going to be right here, all right? Of course, the eyes, in illustration, we can actually add a bit kind of highlights over here, just to make it the drawings look more alive. We're talking about illustrations there, right? Yeah. See? The light also came over here. Okay, maybe the lights over here. Too much there. Maybe a little bit there, okay? Try to add an analytical kind of detail there when you paint. There's some highlights over here. See? Yeah. Some highlights over here. And also a bit here, okay? But it's a huge kind of space. Yeah. Right? So as you move into more process, okay, to study the structure, right? You will get basically, you basically will enhance the structures of the form, right? From these samples there, from these subject matters there. That's why I didn't actually put too much effort to draw her portrait, but I tried to paint as close as I can there, right here. With the eyes itself. I'm going to adjust a bit the flows, right, to add a bit more details there. For example, like this, but not too much there, right? Because pupil and iris have different kind of tones, especially in grayscale. Okay. What I can do right now, I can put some highlights over here, right, to make the photo, the reference, the drawings look a bit more alive, right? Okay, more alive, even though you can't see from the reference there, right? So it's our job as illustrators to add a little bit kind of values, right? Okay? That's why normally illustration will become a little bit more enhanced, okay, more kind of details than the photos there. That's how it works. Okay, guys? Adjust a little bit more. And I'm going to add a little bit kind of tones right here there. But not too much there. Not too much there. Okay. Then go to this one, you see over here. Too much a bit, right? Okay. Yeah. Adjust the size. Yeah. Get it a bit more. So yeah. Don't be afraid, okay? Just to make a move to draw, right, the tones, okay, on the shadows there, because you make mistakes, what you can do, you can erase them. All right. So how about basically the hair? Right, before we draw the hair, you can use base colors. Okay, I'm going to show you that. Okay, using those lasso tools, just draw with the kind of simple kind of selections there, the shapes, okay? But when I actually design a draw using those lasso tools, basically I draw the basic structures of the shapes of the hair. Guys, take a look here. Slowly draw them. I draw basically the hair. I try to draw the hairline there, shapes there. The shapes that actually define the hair. I'm not just simply draw basically the shapes of the hair without having enough understanding there, okay? How the structures look like. But of course, okay, I'm not actually draw too detailed there. I mean to apply a very detailed kind of methods there. If you take a look at the hairline, okay, there is a few kind of negative space, okay, from here. That define basically the structures there. Okay? So it's very fun basically if you understand more okay, on this kind of technique because I'm using a lot and I paint my kind of illustrations, caricatures directly uh, by using this kind of techniques. Uh, the reason I'm using lasso because I want to separate between the shadows of faces and let me see again. Let me paint from below there. Okay, I want to separate between the hair and also the faces there. Okay, then I'm going to tap a little bit using the shadow there. I didn't paint the whole thing there, right? Why? Because I want to leave the highlight over there. Highlight everything, space of highlight everything. This area doesn't seem to be zoomed in. Okay, normally we can zoom in there. Okay, so what I can do is paint a bit like this. Then I can use highlight everything instead. Right? Highlight it there. Oops. Brush. Highlight it there. But not much there, okay? But this is not a detailed kind of drawing here. Remember that. I just want to emphasize on light and shadows here. A very simple kind of techniques that works. Okay. Basically, these areas have to develop with more kind of dark tone there, okay? Dark kind of tone. These areas should be dark a little bit more. Okay. All right. So this is one of the easiest way to define the shapes of the shadows for the hair. Right? Other than we just paint using those brushes there, okay? Brushes there. To define using brushes, there's a lot of ways. Nowadays, there's also some kind of brushes that we can use, right? To paint basically the shadows, okay, or to paint basically the hairline, okay. But it's not actually quite important at the moment there, okay, especially for you guys. Okay? So that means we can skip them afterwards. Okay, let's just say let's see we experiment with it, right? On the shadows. Maybe there. Using these brushes. And these brushes basically can be defined also as like a hair stroke there. Okay? There's also a few brushes that you guys can use in the future that you works. Right? Brush strokes there. So using CS6, there are also a few brushes techniques, brushes kind of tools that can be used. But don't get amazed too much with that brushes there, or with that techniques there. Because why? Because sometimes you will lose a little bit your kind of understanding there. Okay, you will lose a little bit because you're relying on the tool that works. Why they didn't actually emphasize on that? Okay, so basically that's it there. Okay, how it works. So using a very small kind of resource or limited kind of resources there, okay, you still can develop your understanding, right? Working with the shadows and shades there in the right way. All right. So you can actually take a look also, right? My previous video that actually do a bit more like a very simple kind of shadings there, okay? But that shadings will actually apply, will define more kind of what we call that arrangements, more kind of uh, purely kind of techniques understanding to work with the shape itself. If you take a look at the picture there, okay, there's a few contrasts over here that you find between the below neck kind of shadows, okay, with the faces there. You can see clearly right there from here. That's why when you paint, when you look at things, I didn't actually trace them, but I tried to use my kind of observations there, eyes that work. Okay, yeah, define a bit more. So illustrations has to be different kind of treatment there. Okay, when it comes to learn about shading there. Don't be afraid to paint, to draw, and add more values on your illustrations, on your studies there. Make mistakes, right, along the way there. Okay, I just want to show you guys a bit more because this technique basically I really produce. I always produce this kind of techniques introduced to the students there. Okay, but sometimes new semester, first semesters, okay, or maybe one semester doesn't doesn't have enough kind of time there for you guys to explore. I'm combining some time with line there, okay, to define not the hair gray kind of line areas there, but to define the hair strokes there, especially for the highlights there. So illustrations, you have to define that, okay. Remember that, okay, we're not actually drawing portraits, we're not doing a super realistic kind of drawings, but we're working with the studies of illustrations there. So basically, right, these techniques that we try to define directly, if you actually go through in the right way, you will find your kind of identities to work with your drawings. That's why I mix them up, right? I try to mix with uh, with different kind of techniques all the time. Okay, I'm going to use line and strokes, okay, combined with shapes, right? Draw a bit kind of highlights there, right? To work there, right? Okay, some of the highlights also, okay, I can create using those lines, right? This is the strokes over here, all right? Just show a bit kind of highlights there. So illustrations, when you define an illustration there, okay, you have to be defined using the element of design there. I try to combine with element design there, okay, for these illustrations. All right, so that's why this is one of the techniques that I actually apply a lot. Okay, because when I actually paint something, when I want to draw something there, okay, I want to make sure that I have a unique kind of approach there, okay, on the work itself. Right, guys? So about the shades, sometimes you can draw, you can paint it up if you want to, right? For example, here I can use maybe wet sponge brushes, mix them up, okay, experiment them, okay. But I'm not going to use I'm not going to use what you call that other brushes there instead of using these different colors there to define the shapes there, right? So remember that, guys, okay? What we did right now, we're still in the level of designing, learn to design things. So don't just follow exactly from what the photos have shown you guys. You have to be more creative a little bit to redesign this, what we call the sample, that you have to make it more better for your presentation, right? That's why I say we actually design things. We're not actually just follow basically from the photos there. Make it a bit more better, I think, for your presentations, right? Any questions? Any questions there, guys? You can see clear, I think, from the full screen here. Why are you guys quiet? Kelly, what happened is it? You look a little bit worried there. You guys can see clearly, right?
Wi-
The images there
Wi-Fi
that I
problem.
actually share. Right. Yeah, or Wi-Fi there, right? So, any question there, okay, for this week exercise, okay? If you take a look at the sample that I actually shared for you guys, okay, for our lessons here. Okay, I'm going to find, because I really want to select a very nice kind of photos there, okay, that actually you guys can use as a reference there. But for now, if you want to draw any photos other than what I choose, okay, but make sure you actually finish these photos there first when you draw, okay. If you take a look closely, all the images have a very strong value of shades and shadows there. You can study back again the fingers, how to draw the fingers and paint there, okay, using the structures of the shadows that story that works. It's a very heavy shadows over here, right? And highlights. Same goes to this one, right? The very simple basic principle of the shadows, okay, have different kind of tone or values at the same time. How actually I did these kind of things? Check back again my previous videos. I have shown one of them, right? Very heavy shadows there. But remember, okay, from every light, every shadow, there is a light there. It's not purely opacities of black, right? Instead of this one, right? But there is a few gradient of tone that we can define from the shadows there. Remember that when you paint. And this is also one of the samples that you guys can use to study the shadow. There's a there's a numerous kind of numbers of areas of tone that you guys can actually develop on here. All right. So if you want to take a look on the reference that we have, I'm going to give you guys also the samples of reference there, right? So how to define basically the shadows from every single directions there, because this is one thing that we actually will head into the guys, okay? Using the character design later on, okay, how to define the shadows there, study the light and shades, all right? But if someone told me, okay, ask me, okay, is there any advanced techniques? I already give you guys some advanced techniques right here. So this is very basic understanding on the principle of lighting and shadows at the same time, but the directions of your way of moving the flows, the strokes, are going to be tested when you actually start to paint and draw them back. All right, the name of the tone there, right, okay? The center light, they actually came from the directions there, the highlight itself, half tones, right? The core shadows there, right? This is the core shadows there, okay? The core shadows, okay? For those shape for the faces there, okay? And reflected light that I call it, okay? Reflected light from here, you can see here. Try to define them when you draw them, okay? The car shadows that appear, right? If you drawing the base colors, okay? It can be also some car shadow for the neck, basically, okay? Because the object basically have above the platform that you're going to draw there, okay? Basically the neck and the chin there, okay? So you have to define this as a part of the car shadows there, okay? And there are also some exclusion shadow that nearby the neck, okay? That define a bit more darker kind of tone there. So this kind of understanding basically really effective when you have built up understanding at the same time when you actually paint or draw anything from scratch there, okay? But of course, our main objective from all this exercise when we design our characters, I did also some of the samples before, maybe from this reference, okay? So I did show also your friends how I actually design these characters there, okay? These characters, simple characters, but I define the light, the highlights, right? The base colors, the core shadows, the reflections kind of light over here, right? The directions of light came over here directly to define the whole composition of this character there. If you don't have enough understandings, design, if you want to design very simple characters also, they're quite challenging for you guys. That's why learn the basics entirely in the right way, that is, right? Don't just rely on what I give you guys, experiment a little bit more. Okay? Alright guys? If you seem to have any questions, hopefully you guys have gained, right, some of the knowledge from here. And keep on practicing that, okay? Thank you very much.